Yo, what's up, guys? The Insane Game Freak here to bring you Durarara Season 2, Part 3, Episode 9. I forget how many episodes we have left. My assumption is we have about fucking 3. Probably 3 or 4. Anywho, this review is probably coming out late, primarily because I don't know what the fuck happened. Like, either my motivation got shot yesterday or what. I don't know what happened. Also, because this episode wasn't terribly intriguing. So here's the thing: the majority of the episode is like Shizuo and Izaya and Shinra flashbacks, mixing with like fight, probably the main fight. So a little bit of Masaomi Chikage stuff, a little bit of Kodaka and that group, Henri and Saki and Mika and Maki. Oh wow, I can't talk apparently. Maki and Saki. Nominate Seiji, all that other shit. We barely saw anything of fucking of Celti. Actually, I don't think we saw Celti. No, we saw Celti. Celti stopped the explosion, which I don't get that. We don't really get Celti stopped the explosion for whatever reason. Not sure why. And then at the very end, we get some interesting interactions between the girl that Izaya mind fucked at the beginning of the series, and Shinra, kind of going into what can make him suffer. Also, my question is, where the hell is Shinra? Because apparently Shinra was not in the car like I thought he was. Apparently he's in like a building. When did he get placed in the building? I'm not totally sure, but apparently he's in the building. So, that's a thing. So I guess we should go ahead and address some stuff. I guess, for whatever reason, Shinra has the ability to kind of override Psycho bullshit. Not to the highest degree, but he doesn't seem to be under control. Then again, it's not like Kujiri is trying to give orders right now. It also I find interesting is because when they're fighting the karate girl, it's like this weird, well, I'm not trying to, what was it? Neither of them were trying to hurt her, which is interesting. It kind of just shows how much Verona has changed. Because Verona wouldn't have any fucking qualms about it. And Kujiri, I'm kind of curious too, because Kujiri's character seems to be this weird middle ground that doesn't really make sense. She does things that inherently don't help those people. At the same time, it's like it's a very weird situation. That's really the best way I can describe it. It's a very weird and confusing situation. And then you also have Shinra looking for Celti, meaning the girl that fucked him over, who Zaya fucked over. And I will say that's probably the most interesting part of the episode is that there's this interesting dialogue about what Izaya fears or is afraid of or any of his weaknesses. And really, it kind of boils down to what I kind of already guessed. Izaya is incredibly sensitive. He's pretty much, he's the guy who walks around with his wounds wide open. Because, and I guess the Conra situation is probably the best thing to explain that. Because think about it. Because of a very slight incident in middle school, he fucked with a guy for years because of what he did to Shinra, which in retrospect wasn't really that bad in comparison to be fucking with a dude for almost the rest of his life, it seems like. Because that's essentially what happened. He just continually fucked with the guy. And he's still fucking with the guy. Granted, at a certain point, I'm pretty sure it's now just for the sake of usefulness, but he also still fucks with him partially, probably because of what he did to Shinra, which is ridiculous. It's like you're that. It's like it bothers you to that degree that you want to go fuck with a man's life. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, they explained it in season 2, part 2. There's a name that was always used repeatedly around Izaya, but you couldn't, and you knew it was Izaya, but you couldn't tell. And in certain situations, it didn't make sense. Well, the reasoning is because it's a guy from middle school who was fucking with Shinra, and to make him suffer, he decided to take this approach, which essentially has him redo his face with surgery and being constantly chased by all the guys his eye pisses off and directs into his general direction. So it's a terrible situation. Also, a lot of you guys would tell me in the comments that is the guy with Hana and is indeed Takashi. He's probably just wearing a disguise. Although I don't understand his issues with, which to me just says that he's probably the one responsible for the psychos hitting Kodaka, although it confuses me because he shouldn't. He seems way more knowledgeable about all this shit than he should. Because Takashi wasn't that important of a character and didn't even interact with most of these characters. So, like, what is this thing with Shizuo? What is this thing with Kodaka? What is this thing with Mikado? Which, granted, I think he's met Mikado, but Mikado didn't serve as any big shot. Like, unless Takashi's working for the Akasawa group, that's the only thing I can think of. Which, by the way, Akabayashi has this little monologue in here, kind of reflecting over what he wants to do, because it's kind of obvious he wants to protect Henri. So I found it was kind of interesting that he even bothered asking the question of, does that mean I still have feelings for her mom because I fucking wanted to go out of my way to protect? I want to go so far in my way to protect the daughter. I'm like, probably, but it's also just probably because the kind of guy you are. Like, Akabayashi's like one of them dudes that's like really nice. He'll never admit to being a nice, and he didn't view himself as nice, but he's pretty fucking nice. So now the current group is Shikage is going to go beat the shit out of all the blue squares just to get Mikado to meet with Masaomi one-on-one. Although I didn't realize that this was going to happen while his leg was still broken, or at least still fucked up. So I found that interesting. Chikage has quickly become one of my favorites, and I see why people like him so much. He's like one of those characters that's like, ironically enough, almost every character in this series is not what I would consider a good guy, but is not what I would consider a bad guy either. Like, they all kind of hang around that middle ground of being kind of like good and bad. And obviously, we got Henri going to the epicenter of all the ridiculousness in the Psycho War. And I'm curious to see if she's gonna have to tear some shit up. Because she's aware that this is probably her fault. Actually, it is her fault. Because she slashed Takashi, and Takashi's the one that's controlling everything. So, needless to say, we got some motherfucking problems. As far as the Shizuo Izaya flashbacks are concerned, ironically enough, I'm going to play a card that's pretty cheesy, but I think is relatively true. Something tells me that even though he can't stand Izaya, I think on some level he views Izaya as a friend. Because I'm curious to see, and the way we'll be able to tell is if, because he got that motherfucker near the end of the episode, and they took the beam and said, "What you doing, boy?" And granted, Izaya was smart. He stuck his foot out, so it was more like he springboarded off of it. Although Izaya isn't fucking a metahuman, so I mean, it's not like he took that and didn't hurt himself. He got fucked up from the experience, obviously, from what we saw. But what I found the most interesting is that he kind of like that as much as Izaya says that shit, in the flash, it's the Shinra and in Shizuo flashback that makes me think this. I think Shizuo at this point is just beating his ass so he learns his lesson. Not even to kill him. I don't even think he plans to kill him. I think he just wants to beat his ass so he learns his lesson. That's it. I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. I think people are not giving Shizuo enough credit, especially throughout this entire season too. He's matured a lot. I think he's just gonna beat his ass. Nothing is it. I think he's just gonna beat his ass and be like, "You'll learn now." And I feel like he'll finally be at peace. Although I think he'll still be ridiculously strong. He will have almost full control over it. Because even now, considering all, I would think before he would have ran everyone to punch the shit out of him. So the fact that he just swung the beam, and even now he's not acting as retarded about it. Where like in the first season, all he would do was scream, "Izaya!" and just fucking swing the beam around like a crazy man. Here he's just kind of like, I mean, he's still angry, but it doesn't feel like to the same degree. So my assumption is that he's still, I think the three of them are still consider themselves friends. As much as Izaya won't ever admit it, and probably as much as Shizuo won't admit it, I think they're all three of them are still friends. They're just kind of indifferent friends, meaning they're friends on a base level, but they're not so much of like, I gotta go help him because he's my friend. They will back each other in certain situations, but for the most part, they still let them do their own things. It's one of the reasons why Shinra is so willing to help Shizuo every time he comes over there fucked up. Is the reason why Izaya had such a mean-ass vendetta against the guy who hurt Shinra. And even though Izaya and Shizuo won't do anything towards each other, Ironically enough, I would argue they've been kind of helping each other grow in some way. It's through Isaiah's bullshit that he's kind of slowly but surely learned to calm down. Shizuo's learned to calm down. And in reverse, I would argue I wouldn't say his mind is being changed, but I feel like Shizuo is a part of his life that as much as he hates, he never goes out of his way to fully fix. Like he's sitting here saying, like, it's kind of obvious, like, Isaiah, for as smart as you are, you're trying to come up with clever ways of killing him. But I think it's more so that he never stops coming that scares you the most. And I think, ironically enough, I think you won't truly be at peace with Shizuo until he actually does die, because then you can finally admit to yourself that he was human and he was your friend. It's kind of like Isaiah, I think, is going through a sense of denial. Now, granted, this is all, assumption and theory on my part, but that's just what I think. Other than that, like, this episode really was more of just, it was way more set up without really anything substantial to really talk about, other than the Isaiah Shizuo Shinra relationship, which is the heavy theme of this episode. So if anyone wants to put that in the comment section and their thoughts on it, I'd be happy to hear it. Also, kind of, I realize there's like trios all across this motherfucking series. You got Shinra, Isaiah, and Shizuo, and then you also got Henri, Mikado, and Masaomi. If I look hard enough, I could probably find. Actually, I know I could find another trio. Fucking Namine, Maki, and Namine, Maki, and Seiji. Oh man, if I really wanted to get technical about it, I could do like Henri, Celti, and Saki. Anyways, just a random thought. Anyways, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. This has been the Insane Game Freak. Life's a game, play to win, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.